Okay, Soc class, welcome to your video for Chapter 5 on crime and the criminal justice system. So at this point in class, we've already discussed deviance in general. We've talked about internal and external social control, psychological explanations for deviance, and we've also taken a look at how the three theoretical perspectives would explain deviance. And so now, going more specific example, right, looking at crime and the criminal justice system in the United States. So let's take a look at crime. A crime would be any deviant behavior that is prohibited by law. And so if you think back to what we learned in Unit 2 concerning norms or rules for behavior, right? Some norms we would be considered law, right, and enforced by officials within the society. And so when we talk about crime, we're talking about violation of those types of norms, which we call laws. Various types of crime, which we'll actually discuss in class as a group, but your violent crimes, things such as murder, manslaughter, rape. Those are examples of violent crimes, against another individual. We can also talk about property crimes, things like theft, or arson, vandalism would fall under property crimes. Organized crime, which is going to be fulfilled by like a large network of criminals or individuals working together to commit crimes, such as the mob is a characteristic, organized crime, gangs or drug trafficking, those sorts of things would fall under that category. White collar crimes, which are going to be crimes committed by individuals in the business field, and so embezzlement of money from a company into one's personal account would be an example of a white collar crime. And finally, victimless crime can be a category of crimes. By victimless, I guess we mean that the only individual that is potentially harmed is the perpetrator of the crime. So things like public drunkenness or drug possession would be examples of victimless crimes. Okay, this is hopefully review from government class and something you've already learned in another social studies class. But the criminal justice system in sociology, we can talk about its four functions. The first would be obviously in apprehending suspected offenders, right? Individuals that are suspected of committing crimes would be, apprehended or gathered up by police, being an element of the criminal justice system. Determining their innocence or guilt would be the second function of the criminal justice system, obviously that being handled by the court system. Deciding the punishments, again, would the courts within the criminal justice system would handle that. And keeping the guilty separated from society would be the job of our country's correctional systems. So those are the four functions of the criminal justice system. The major elements, which kind of already mentioned, right? Police, right? They're the ones that apprehend the suspects. Courts are the ones that are determining who's innocent and who's guilty, and then deciding the appropriate punishment. And then finally, the correctional system is the one that keeps the guilty isolated or separated from society. Now, within the correctional system, we can talk about four major functions. The correctional system not only keeps the guilty separated, but also would be in charge of retribution. Retribution, think of that as payback. And so part of the function of the correctional system in our culture is that you're serving, your punishment is payback for the crime that one committed against society. Deterrence is another function of the correctional system. If you are deterred, you are not persuaded to do something. You don't want to do it. And so many individuals may not commit crimes because of that external social control of, well, I don't want to go to jail or I don't want to go to prison. So the fact that the correctional system exists can serve as a deterrent. Rehabilitation would be, this is why we like to call it the correctional system, and that we are hoping that part of its function is to rehabilitate or fix or re-socialize the individuals that are incarcerated. And the reason that you want to rehabilitate the individuals is to avoid what's known as recidivism. And recidivism just means, to repeat a crime or be a repeat offender. And you don't want, people that are released from the correctional system to end up back in the correctional system. So that's one of its major functions, at least in theory. We'll discuss that later. And social protection. That's kind of right, keeping the guilty isolated or separated from the rest of culture, so that dangerous individuals aren't living amongst the general population. All right, and so there, again, more detail would probably come of these things concerning law and crime and the criminal justice system in a government class. But for purposes of our intro to deviance in the social class, this will more than suffice. So bring your notes with you to class, and any questions that you may have. We'll use this information in a discussion. And as always, thanks for listening.